whilst this so-called fourth industrial revolution is literally taking the world by its ears, organizations have collectively produced numerous outcomes that nobody really wanted. There's burnout and loneliness, inequality and hunger, and ecological collapse. And by some estimates, more than $7 trillion are wasted every single year globally due to employee disengagement. And if that wasn't enough, whilst mankind is facing a historic inflection point, 56% of global citizens believe capitalism does more harm than good. Why are we really here? How can we evolve our organizations to achieve our purpose? Who do we, each of us individually, need to become in order to make it work? I very often encounter people who tell me very earnestly that they deeply desire to become more agile or TEAL without ever really asking themselves the question why. And that is not surprising, is it? We have created a seductively materialistic and individualistic narrative in our Western society where often self-interested growth, productivity, and stock prices have become ends in themselves. In a pandemic of business, we've often succumbed to that hedonistic treadmill of money for money's sake, where people start to work ever longer hours to attain status, social acceptance, or wealth, just to find out that it does not really make them happier. And in creating ever greater riches, arguably for far too few, we've often ignored ecologic externalities, just to discover that our mother planet is at the brink of bankruptcy and that the collapse of global climate will threaten the livelihoods of millions. So what do we really believe in? What do we really stand for? These questions are both existential and fundamental because we create organizations for a purpose, to achieve something together, which individually we could not possibly achieve. In these new 20s, we must let go of the illusion that work can be predicted or planned in detail. Hence, as BCG suggested last year, the companies that will win in the 2020s are those who can compete on learning from a paradigm of scalable efficiency that has dominated our businesses very much since the Industrial Revolution. We need to move to a world of scalable learning and development. From competitive, we need to move to adaptive advantage, and from closed systems to boundaryless ecosystems. So I think those liberated organizations of the future must be able to create an environment where people can and want to make a difference in order to harness ideas from everywhere. Today, in order to thrive, we need to embrace uncertainty and maximize human flourishing as work, rather than just driving efficiency and productivity. But how do we get there? Given that we're talking about HR, here are my top 5 suggestions. 1, focus needs to move from individual high performers towards system and team psychodynamics. Many leadership teams are dysfunctional. 2, performance management must facilitate self-reflection, strength-based feed-forwards, and peer coaching. 3, leadership and promotions must be truly based on ethical values and relational skills, not just conformity or the ability to control. 4, I believe we should explore and put a lot more emphasis on skills-based roles, peer-to-peer learning, and skills-based compensation, not just old-style job mappings. And 5, may I humbly suggest that this is the time to eventually rename human resources, which in itself is a term of the past and not truly reflecting the value the HR teams can offer. And yes, of course, we need to digitize, but I believe above all, we must install the mindsets and mechanisms for agile co-creation to truly serve our employees' experience and co-create transformation. And in finance, I think we really need to evolve resource allocation and target setting beyond annual budgeting. And together, we should try to liberate our organizations so that over time, they will become laboratories of ideas, integrating action and inquiry into everything we do, always sensing and exploring and experimenting whilst we're moving in teams and in peer communities of learning. But there's more. In my experience, adapting the context does not necessarily mean that people will accept ownership. So how can we truly unleash the creativity of our people? And here for decades, we've been trained to see humans as strictly rational consumers in economic markets. In our businesses, we've treated people like easily replaceable human capital or as exchangeable resources to be controlled. And as a result, more than 75% of employees feel disengaged. So going forward, I believe we truly must put people first. The business of business is people. And this, frankly, is where most of our organizations today seem stuck. Why? I regret to say so, colleagues and friends, but I do believe it's often because of us. The maturity of an organization can never transcend the maturity and consciousness of its leaders. If our definition of success continues to be going up that ladder from VP to SVP to EVP, hierarchy prevails. The question, of course, is how can we transcend? What's that breakthrough? Sustainable organizational transformation is only possible through concurrent individual transformation. We are the system. Yet that also means that we all have the power and I think the responsibility to reshape our relationships and organizations from who we are and how we show up. We can all spark the liberation of our organizations, gradually crafting those structures, processes, and cultures needed to attain both an environment for individual development and the evolution of an emergent collective purpose. And together, we can slowly compose a new unifying narrative to overcome the limitations of that social materialism that we have today, where success is not only about money, but compassion, community, and character. We have our toes in the water, but we need to start pulling through, not as controllers, but as servants, not with a perfect plan, but starting somewhere and adapting and growing whilst we go.